What if Deku wasn't just saving hearts, but breaking them? Let's dive into this. The fabulous UA Academy is where future heroes willing to give their all in an emergency are trained. This year they will take their long-awaited entrance exam looking for new students and future saviors of the world. Aside from being famous for having trained many heroes, they also have the 3 most beautiful women in all of Japan. As a teacher, the fabulous +18 heroine Midnight. Her real name is Namuri Kayama and she is 31 years old. A former graduate of the Academy, she is currently in the top 23 of the best heroes. 15. A former Academy graduate, she is currently in the top 23 of the best heroes. We present to you Mount Lady, whose real name is Yutei Kiyama and 24 years old, a beauty. Last but not least, a heroine who is very close friends with the other 2 mentioned, a person who visits the U Academy. Last but not least, a heroine who is a close friend of the other 2 mentioned, a person who visits the UA Academy a lot since a student of this institute is her pupil. We present to you the dragon heroine, Ryuko Tatsuma, who is only 26 years old. We present to you the dragon heroine, Ryuko Tatsuma, at only 26 years old. Namuri. You're the oldest, said you looking at the sky where posters with their photos were appearing and a wrestling narrator's voice was playing. The 3 of them were looking at the sky with their performances. It's misspelled, said the black-haired girl kicking a rock making the blonde start laughing. The entrance exam will be today, right? The blonde asked her friend, the academy teacher. The 3 of them were sitting on chairs in a bar while drinking some whiskey. That's right, first years are coming in today, said Namuri, drinking the whole glass and leaving it on the table while ordering another. Isn't it wrong for you to drink if in half an hour you're going to be the referee of the exam? Ryuko asked without expressing many feelings while her 2 friends who were drinking another glass choked and looked at her scared. Half an hour? They both said as they left some money on the table and ran out of the Paradise Bar. We have to get there in 15 minutes, you said as he was about to activate his quirk, but Ryuko touched his shoulder as she transformed into a dragon and her 2 friends climbed on her back while the transformed woman moved her wings and took off like a helicopter. Namuri and you enjoyed the air hitting their faces as they looked down at the city from above. It looked like an anthill, and in a few minutes they had reached the remarkable UA building that was packed with young people. I won't be able to land with so many people, I'll go further away, said the dragon while her 2 friends nodded and the mythological animal turned around and walked a couple of blocks away from the building. Am I really going to be late for my exam? Asked a green-haired boy who was running through the streets at full speed with his quirk that the number 1 hero inherited from him. He had fallen asleep from so much training and not even the alarm could wake him up. It was his mother who threw a bucket of water at him. 10 years of training with One for All, I'll put it to the test, said the boy as he slowed down and concentrated on activating his quirk. One for All full cowl, he shouted as he felt every limb of his body with great power and smiled. He got into a runner's pose and left, passing streets in seconds. When he could see the institute building from afar, he heard a noise like a helicopter and something fell on top of him. We're here, said the strange creature as he heard 2 people get off the creature. The boy who was a fan of all the pro heroes recognized that voice and that shape. The heroine dragon Ryuko? The boy asked, coming out from under the creature, and there he saw 2 beautiful women. And who are you? Said you looking at the green-haired boy from head to toe. The boy blushed and bowed quickly. As a fan of heroes, it was impossible not to recognize those 2 beauties. I'm Midoriya Izuku. Nice to meet you, said the green-haired boy, smiling and closing his eyes out of nervousness. The girls greeted him and hurriedly ran towards UA. The entrance was packed with so many boys and girls that you could feel the nerves in the air. When the trio of girls arrived, they used the back entrance for authorized personnel only and went inside the building. Inside there were several people arranging things and there was an old acquaintance of the trio. What's the peace symbol doing in a place like this? Said Namuri, coming to the side of the muscular blonde who had his characteristic smile. Kayama-san, long time nod, All Might said, greeting his old acquaintance and also his 2 friends with a gesture. Didn't Nezu tell you? I'm a teacher now, said the blonde, feeling greatness with the title teacher. The blue-haired woman congratulated him. Any specific reason? Said Ryuko, standing next to Namuri, and the blonde erased his usual smile, but in its place he put another smile, but it was more fatherly. My pupil aspires to enter this academy, said the symbol of peace, but now speaking more seriously and with a tear in his eye. The green-haired man arrived at the entrance just as the doors opened and everyone entered. He was a bit tired since using One for All used too much energy from his own body. He turned to see the people and could see how a brown-haired girl slipped, but before hitting the ground he saved her by running to her with his quirk. Are you okay? The green-haired boy asked the girl who was about to vomit, so the boy stopped her and the girl went behind a tree to vomit. "Thank you very much," she said, coming back to the boy's side. The queue to get in was quite long, so they had time to chat. "Midoriya Izuku," said the green-haired boy, putting his hand out to greet her, and the girl smiled at him. "Ochako Uraka," she said, shaking her hand with the boys, but someone passed between their hands, cutting off their greeting. "I didn't expect to see you here," said a blonde who was Izuku's eternal rival. This boy was called Katsuki Bakugo. Since they were 6, both boys fought indirectly to see who had the best quirk, but it was never known. After taking a written exam, Izuku was taken with the rest of the boys to what looked like a university auditorium where all the aspiring heroes would be waiting for the practical exam presentation to begin until the lights went out and spotlights appeared pointing at the platform. Then a person came on stage, a tall blonde man with a spiky back hairdo. He was wearing a black suit with shoulder pads and inlays, sunglasses, headphones, black boots, black fingerless gloves, and on his neck there was some kind of equalizer with speakers and space for cassettes. "Welcome everyone," the man exclaimed with emotion and strength, making his voice ring out easily throughout the auditorium with the intention of brightening up the atmosphere, but he only received silence from the entire audience. "Well, anyway, I'm here to present what the practical exam will consist of, so keep your ears working perfectly," said the man more calmly and somewhat dejectedly, while behind him some devices that they had prepared for the presentation began to appear. "Who the fuck is it?" Kachan said with intrigue while he had his hands in his pockets and his gaze fixed on the presenter. "He's the professional hero Present Mike who has a radio show and his quirk consists of expelling sound waves from his mouth, plus he's a teacher of Yue like other heroes," said Izuku, showing a bit of fanaticism, making the blonde snort and Uraka smile a little.
"You will be led to a simulated battlefield for 10 minutes in a city, which we will take you to once the presentation is over," said Present Mike with some enthusiasm and fluency, while behind him an image of 4 square blocks was shown, each identified with an A, B, C and D. "There will be 3 different kinds of robots that will limit the villains on the field. They are organized in scores from 1 to 3, explained Present Mike with energy and a smile, while images of 3 models of robotic villains appeared, each one having a number from 1 to 3. They will win and accumulate points by defeating them with their quirks. Attacking other participants is obviously prohibited." He continued, speaking to make an X with his arms, prohibiting non-heroic acts. Everyone nodded with their eyes fixed on the presenter, while Katsuki was like a boiling kettle for the fact of not attacking the others. "Finally, I will give you as a gift our school's motto, Plus Ultra, which means going beyond 100% of our capacity. Now get ready for the most exciting event." Present Mike exclaimed loudly and excitedly, transmitting part of his enthusiasm to everyone, and several began to shout and whistle, inspired by the pro-hero's words. They separated all the young people into 4 groups. Izuku went to Group C, Uraka to B and Katsuki to D. After separating into groups, Izuku along with the rest of the applicants from Group C were taken to the front of a large fake city with giant doors as entrances. It was the Academy's testing ground, but it was still completely large and immense, surprising everyone including Izuku. Now everyone was wearing gym clothes for the practical exam. Izuku was wearing a green sports sweater with nothing underneath for comfort, a dark red loose-fitting jumpsuit, black sneakers with red details, and his usual wristbands. "It looks like a city," exclaimed one of the male applicants with complete astonishment in his voice upon seeing such a size for only one of the 4 test fields for admission. "And it's as big as a real one," added an equally impressed candidate, while several around her agreed. "The UA is really amazing," Izuku said with some astonishment and a slight smile while he looked at the immense doors. Suddenly the doors opened and everyone was paralyzed. The noise they made was tremendous. "Start, young people," Present Mike exclaimed loudly and excitedly from a watchtower that was there so everyone could hear him. Izuku understood everything that was happening, so he activated One for All and quickly ran into the city while everyone watched in amazement. "Do you think in a real-life situation when the fight starts?" exclaimed Present Mike with a big smile on his face, causing all the applicants to start running towards the city using their quirks, pushing each other, making it difficult to move. The trio of friends were in the chamber room with many more teachers watching everything calmly. All Might had a smile on his face when he saw that his pupil was the first to react. Nemuri noticed that silly smile. "Don't tell me. That green-haired man is your pupil?" said the woman, putting her finger on the screen where Izuku could be seen finishing off 3 two-point robots with brute force. "You found me out," said the blonde, scratching the back of his neck and laughing in that funny way that only he can do. As time went by, the robots were easily destroyed. 2 people were leading the pack. Katsuki Bakugo and Izuku Midoriya. Both had almost 120 points and the difference between them was 0.
Suddenly, an alarm sounded on the battlefield that caught everyone's attention. It was a giant robot of almost 20 meters that could be seen a few meters away. Everyone was running away from the robot and Izuku was going to do the same, but he saw that a frog girl was trapped by the body of a robot and the giant was approaching her slowly. Before stepping on it, Izuku stepped under the robot's foot, stopping its advance and the inevitable death of the toad girl. "Run away," said the green-haired boy, clenching his teeth from the strength he was demonstrating. The toad girl tried to move the robot's body with her tongue, but someone came to help her. It was a black-haired boy with motors in his legs. "Quickly," Izuku shouted, losing strength until the other two were able to escape. The robot's foot beat the green-haired boy and stepped on him like an ant. The frog girl and the black-haired man would be stunned to see how the colossal floored the green-haired boy. He was going to continue on his way, but suddenly the entire leg of the robot was destroyed, and from the destruction the green-haired boy came out running through the giant's body and destroying the robot's chest, causing the impact to make it fall and create a large cloud of dust. The exam was over and in first place was Katsuki Bakugo, since Midoriya was busy with the 0-point robot. Second, the aforementioned green-haired boy, and third was a boy named Eijiro Kirishima. The trio of girls were amazed to see the green-haired boy's potential and how handsome he was. "The three of us know that boy will fall in love with me," said Yu, smiling smugly and making the other two laugh out loud. "Impossible, he will fall in love with me," Nemuri and Ryuko said at the same time, causing the three of them to collide their heads and look at each other with hatred. "Teacher," said a blue-haired girl coming to Ryuko's side who seemed not to have hurt her. "What are you doing?" said the blue-haired girl, intrigued upon seeing the behavior of the trio of girls. "We argued over a man," Yu said angrily, pretending to be offended and looking away. The other two did the same. "Why don't you make a bet? The first one to fall in love with him gets to keep him," said the blue-haired girl while remembering that Wattpad story where they did the same thing. The three women smiled with a little star in their eyes, making the blue-haired girl freak out. "Okay," Yu said, putting her hand in the center while the other two did the same action and looked at each other with hatred. "By the way, who is it?" asked the blue-haired girl, to which the three girls looked at the scoreboard screen and then at the green-haired man who was talking to All Might. "Is it Izuku Midoriya?" the girl said excitedly, and the other three women nodded. The girl put her hand in the center and that disoriented the other three. "So, it's a bet," the four of them said at the same time, taking out their hands, but the blue-haired girl ran to Izuku's side. "Hello, my name is Neihire Hato, it's a pleasure," she said, looking at the boy and then looking at the sky. Neihire Hato, 17 years old and in class 3A. The last participant in the bet. In a bar called Paradise, at a specific table were four beautiful women who had the gaze of all the men. "Let's decide the rules of the bet," said Nemuri, slamming a glass containing an alcoholic beverage on the table. "I think Nemuri is right, rules will make this bet fairer," Ryuko said, putting her hand on her chin while shaking her head up and down. "Before setting rules, shouldn't we think about how we will win the boys' love?" said the young Neihire, causing the three older girls to open their eyes and nod their heads. "It was your idea, you decide how it will be," said the blonde, not wanting to admit that she had not thought about how it would be. Neihire smiled and bit her lip. "Each of you will have 3 dates with the boy, each of you has to find a way to get a date. Each date will last an hour and in that hour we will have to somehow make the boy fall in love with us," explained Neihire while the trio of MILFs listened attentively. "If one of you ruins it and the boy doesn't want to see you anymore, you will be disqualified. That is in the hands of you and the boy. Any questions?" said the blue-haired girl, making all her companions look at her intrigued. "What if in the hypothetical case that the boy falls in love with someone first?" Nemuri asked quite seriously, which made everyone look at Neihire with some seriousness. "Well, that one will win," said Neihire, closing her eyes while she sighed, and everyone did the same. Nemuri stood up from her seat while she took her wallet out of her bag and left a bill. "I'm leaving, ladies," said the black-haired girl, leaving the money on the table and leaving the bar. They all looked at each other and continued talking about trivial things. The young black-haired girl walked through the streets of Japan very distressed. Her ex-husband, a man with a very good economy, is now harassing her and sending thugs to kidnap her. For her, these were not problems since her quirks are very stupid and no problem for the heroine. Suddenly someone pulled her by the hair and they were in a very dirty alley. The woman's mouth was covered with a hand. "If you don't calm down, you'll die," the male voice said, putting a gun to the woman's back. Nemuri opened her eyes in surprise and calmed down. "Who are you?" said the black-haired woman once the man removed the hand that prevented her from speaking. "I'm coming from Shinji," the man said, making Nemuri grit her teeth upon hearing her ex-husband's name. "Tell him I won't go back to him," said Nemuri, wanting to get out of his grip, but his arms grew 10 times stronger. "Or you won't. He said you would answer that," said the man, pushing Nemuri against the wall and hitting her in the face, causing the woman to fall to the ground in pain. "He said if you answer that he will make you disappear," said the man, approaching the weak woman, putting the gun to the back of her neck. Nemuri felt the gun on her skin. She was afraid that the man would shoot her in the back of the neck. She wanted to continue living with her friends. "Oh, okay, I'll be back, Ko." The woman was interrupted as her attacker was knocked down by a green ray. "Are you okay, young lady?" the young green-haired man asked, getting into a battle stance as he looked at the man who was wiping the blood from his nose. The man stood up and the young man quickly approached the villain, punching him in the face, but he didn't even flinch. The boy stepped back while grabbing his right hand, which was the one he hit with. Out of nowhere, the villain had his skin toughen. Nemuri slowly stood up while grabbing her savior's hand. When she saw his face, it was that boy, the one from the bed. "My hero name is Deku and I will get you out of this scene," said the green-haired man while smiling at the black-haired girl, making her move completely. No man had ever smiled at her like that, so honest, so loving, so heroic. The man approached the couple quickly, trying to hit the boy, but the boy skillfully dodged it by counterattacking with a kick to the abdomen, but it had no effect. The man smiled vilely, but suddenly a kind of pink mist caused the man to fall to the ground asleep. "Is that your quirk, miss?" the green-haired boy asked, kneeling on the ground since both his right arm and his left leg were in pain. "That's right," Nemuri said, kicking the man who was completely asleep. She then approached the young man who was grimacing in pain. "Are you okay, boy?" the brunette asked him, shaking his hand, which the boy accepted angrily. "I'm not a child, I saved you from death. That doesn't make a child, that makes him a hero," said the green-haired man, grabbing the sleeping man and carrying him on his shoulder. "What are you going to do with that man?" the black-haired girl asked as she watched the boy walk away with the man on his shoulder. "I'll take him to the police," said the boy, but the woman grabbed the man's sleeping body and hit him with her fingers on the forehead. "Idiot, if you take it to the police they will scold you for using your quirk without having a license," said Nemuri, making the boy freeze. She was completely right about that. He shouldn't have gone with his quirk. "Now I can go and tell them that you used your quirk without a license. What do you think they will say to you?" continued speaking Nemuri, making the young man open his eyes drastically. The boy stood speechless, staring at the ground in fear. But the woman put her finger on his mouth and winked at him. "He will be our little secret hero, Deku," said Nemuri, leaving the place, and the boy sat down blushing. "I wanted to act cool like a hero, but I was embarrassed and I was a hindrance to her," Izuku said, whispering to himself while sighing and looking at the sky. The woman walking through the streets at night with the sleeping man on her shoulders sighed and then smiled. "You saved me, kid, now I have an excuse to win that bet," said Nemuri, arriving at the police station and leaving the sleeping man at the doors. We focus on a very large building, inside which is the new generation of professional heroes, willing to give their lives in the name of justice. "So, who the hell are you?" asked a blonde with an explosive temper, looking at a disciplined black-haired boy in a bad way. "My name is Tenya Ida and I demand that you please sit down. This is how we make UA look bad," said the black-haired man while adjusting his characteristic glasses. Both boys bumped their heads while clenching their fists. They were both separated by a green-haired boy sighing in annoyance. The blonde boy snorted angrily and sat up straight while crossing his hands. "Thank you very much," Ida said, looking at Izuku with a smile. The green-haired boy brushed it off and sat down in his seat. A bell rang, causing everyone standing to automatically sit down. The door opened as a woman with straight black hair, a somewhat erotic uniform, walked in. "Good morning, worms, I will be your homeroom teacher. You can call me Midnight Sama or just Sensei," explained the black-haired woman while she left her books on her desk and then sat down at it. "You," Nemuri said while pointing at a boy who had purple spheres on his head, "if you, on a sheet of paper, write the names of everyone and their quirks," she said while the boy stood up and gave a sheet of paper to a frog girl. The older woman looked around at everyone until she came to a certain green-haired man who was staring blankly at his cell phone. The boy left the sheet of paper on the green-haired man's desk and he calmly filled it out before handing it back to the purple-haired man. Once the sheet was filled with the 20 students, the teacher proceeded to take attendance. When she said Izuku's name and he looked up to see her, he instantly realized that it was the woman from yesterday. They talked about trivial things among themselves, who they lived with, their quirks, their limitations and more. When the bell rang indicating the time change, Izuku waited until everyone left so he could talk to the black-haired woman. "Sensei, it's you. Right? The woman I saved yesterday," Izuku said, arriving next to the woman who was collecting her things and looked at the boy with grace. I saved you, silly, Nemuri said, touching the green-haired boy's nose as she left the room, leaving an embarrassed Izuku. But I saved her, Midoriya whispered, touching his nose, sighing somewhat annoyed and then smiling and leaving the room. Nemuri arrived at the teacher's lounge and threw herself on her chair in despair. All Might and Aizawa stared at her strangely. Boy! You make my heart race, said the brunette, hiding her embarrassed face in her knees. Hello everyone, I'm All Might and I'll be your teacher on how to be a good hero, but the institution calls it Fundamental Studies on Heroes, said the muscular blonde while all the students looked at him with admiration except two, Izuku and Katsuki. Midoriya because he's already used to his presence, after 10 years of training it would be obvious. And Bakugo hides his fanaticism because he doesn't like to show his weakness to his classmates. Okay, boys, today we have 3 companions who will help you train. The academy and the media call them the Big Three of the UA, said the peace symbol, pointing to the trio of students who were standing heroically. Hello everyone, my name is Mirio Tagata and I am. The blonde spoke very excitedly but was interrupted by the blue-haired girl who jumped into Izuku's arms, causing everyone to open their eyes in surprise. You are Midoriya Izuku, the best of all the first years, the best score in robot destruction, said the blue-haired girl, caressing the boy's cheek, who blushed but didn't let go. Uraka pulled the blue-haired girl away from the green-haired boy. I came first in the robot scores, Katsuki complained, making the blue-haired girl laugh, and the blonde clench his fists angrily. Midoriya stopped destroying robots because he saved a life, if not, you would have been second, blonde, said the blue-haired girl, causing Izuku to scratch his head in embarrassment and Katsuki to grit his teeth angrily. Okay, kids. There's no need to fight. Like I said, they're the Big Three, Mirio Tagata, All Might spoke as he introduced the blonde who greeted Midoriya, whom they already knew. Then, Miss Nehire Hato, he continued, speaking while pointing at the blue-haired girl. And last but not least, Tamaki Majiki, while pointing at a rather shy boy. After the introductions, the 20 students were separated into groups of 3, with each student being a third-year student. Izuku, Uraka, Ida and Tsuyu walked behind Nehire Hato as they walked away from the area. Izuku was talking to Uraka while Nehire listened to their conversation. I will win this bet and then we will be a happy couple, the blue-haired girl whispered to herself as she walked and turned around to see Izuku talking comfortably with the brunette. Rock, paper, scissors, said the 4 women playing the classic children's game. Right now they were playing their first official date with the green-haired boy. It can't be, the trio of girls who separated from the winner said at the same time. Ryuko had taken out rock while the losing trio took out scissors. Why did you have to win? You cried, resting his head on the round table of the bar. Nemuri rested her hand on his shoulder while thinking the same thing. Congratulations, teacher, Nehire shouted, hugging the blonde heroine who showed no emotion. Now that I think about it, said Ryuko, putting her hand on her chin, thinking, how will I get a date with him? Commented the blonde, leaving the trio of losers in shock. Shit, we didn't think about that, you admitted, thinking of some plan to have a date alone with the green-haired boy. Let's do something, said the blue-haired girl with a mischievous smile on her face. Let each one find a way to be with Midoriya. This way, not only is physical fitness evaluated, but also intelligence and luck, declared the UA student, causing the rest of the group to nod in agreement. Saturday 10:03. Why the fuck do I have to come here to do the shopping? Today I had to train with Ida. I woke up at 8 a.m. to go train with one of my friends that I made in the class, but my mother had other plans for my Saturday. I'm wandering around the streets of Japan, looking for a sweet shop or something. I look at the list again and read the things my dear mother ordered me. I already had almost everything, all I'm missing is the cake from the sweet shop. Where could I find some candy? As I turned the corner I bumped into someone and fell to the ground. Hey, look where I am. I fell silent when I saw the woman extending her hand to me kindly. Are you okay? She said, giving me a kind smile, her golden yellow hair running across her face. I grab her hand and she pulls me up. Yes, excuse me Ryuko, I was just distracted, I admit, picking up the bags that were lying on the floor. It's okay, she said, helping me with the bags. When I get up I can look at her attentively, her eyes penetrate my soul. And your outfit? I ask her curiously. She looks at her clothes and then looks at me. Today my apprentice decided to go a little bit out of the ordinary, she said, putting her index finger on her chin and looking at the sky. But I don't know what to do, she said, now pouting in a way that melted my heart. The same thing happened to me. Today I was going to train with a friend but my mother forced me to come to do the shopping. I said while letting out a small laugh, and she repeated my action. After a quiet silence, I decided to help the young lady. Do you want to come with me? I said sincerely while her pupils transformed into stars and she nodded her head. Without realizing it, I threw the shopping list into a trash can. I came across a very beautiful lady. This doesn't happen every day. Saturday 10:43. Okay. I have all this. I need birthday candles, I said, making up the list in my brain. She nodded and told me to follow it. Mrs. Ryuko, how does it feel to save people? He asked the blonde heroine. She showed a sincere smile and then looked at the sky. Feeling their applause, their smiles, their gratitude in their eyes. Being a heroine is not about saving people to climb the rankings, saving people who need it without any price. That is being a hero, she said as we walked. Each word marked my heart. When she finished speaking, she looked me in the eyes, giving me a smile, causing my heart to race. When we arrived at a party house, I bought some birthday candles. After that, we visited many more places. On the way, we chatted about heroes' work and trivial things. You study at the UA, right? She asked me. That question took me by surprise, but I was calm. Sure. How do you know that? I asked him with great curiosity. I was watching the cameras during the exam, she commented, causing a slight blush to appear on my cheeks. I watched as you defeated the robots with bestiality and saved that in turn without hesitation, she said, reaching a corner. We both remained in a calm, not at all awkward silence. I have to go, my pupil will probably need me, she said, putting her hands in front of her body and letting out a light laugh. Me too, I'm done with the list, I declared, laughing back and waving goodbye. I turned around and waited for the traffic light to turn green. Oh, by the way, she said, causing me to turn around and look at her curiously, what's your name? A cocky smile formed on my face. I activated One for All, letting the characteristic green rays come out of my limbs. My hero name is Deku, remember me, I said, watching as the traffic light turned green and I left the scene at full speed. Saturday 13:21. The heroine Ryuko entered the bar where her friends and her apprentice were waiting for her. The three women looked at her attentively. I think I got a 10, the blonde commented, sitting down in her seat and leaving all her opponents speechless. Don't think that with a 2-hour date you will fall in love with him, said Nemuri, giving an arrogant smile to the exhausted woman. Time doesn't count when it comes to love, Nehire declared, closing her eyes and then opening them with a big, sincere smile. In 5 days, the four of us will come back here to play for the second date, said you, leaving her glass on the table and leaving the place. Nemuri, Nehire and Ryuko herself were surprised by their partner's attitude. Obviously Ryuko, you won't play until the last one has her date, Nemuri commented, making the blonde nod her head and then order a beer from the bartender. The Wednesday long awaited by 3 women arrived. Today would be the day in which one of those 3 would have a date with the beautiful green-haired boy. We focused on a square where there were several small children playing superheroes. Apart from these children, there were 4 women, 3 of whom were sitting on a bench and the 4th leaning against a tree. Okay girls. Today we'll see who's the second one to have a date with Midoriya Izuku, Nemuri said, rubbing her hands excitedly. Certainly she, being her sensei, had certain advantages that the others didn't have. She saw the green-haired boy every day and they even talked. On the other hand, there was the blue-haired Nehire Hato who helped out at the hero course twice a week, so she also had a certain advantage. Let's play, you said, brimming with nerves and anxiety. She certainly wanted to be the winner. She was already quite old and had not yet had a love affair. Rock, Nehire said, placing her hand behind her body as she looked at the duo of women. Paper, you continued while inspecting every movement of her friends and companions. Or scissors, Nemuri shouted, giving the signal for the trio to take their hand out from behind their body, revealing the winner. Yes, the blonde heroine squealed with excitement, proclaiming herself victorious in the game. Nehire and Nemuri sighed in annoyance when they saw that they were defeated by the blonde woman. Congratulations you, said Ryuko, appearing at her side, putting her hand on her shoulder, congratulating her. The blonde was so excited that she started dancing, and that caught the children's attention. It's the heroine Mount Lady, said one of them, causing everyone to approach the blonde, who was forced to run away from the place. Thursday 1812. Thursday, I hate Thursdays. Do you hate them? How could you hate them? For you it means getting closer to Saturday, but for me it means tiredness. Don't get me wrong, I love training to be a better hero, but I've been training One for All for 10 years now and I still can't get above 50%. On Thursdays I got used to going to a square near my house and staying there to train, but after spending all day at the academy rescuing mannequins from a fire, my body needs a rest. I walk through the streets, getting closer and closer to my destination. I look at my watch, it is 18:23 at 2000 hours I should get home. When I finally get to the square I leave my briefcase on the side of a bench and put on the hood of the coat I'm wearing. I drain a little one for all through my body, dividing the power to each limb of my body. I feel the power, the energy flowing inside me. I get into a running stance when he's about to be given the order to run, and I go out. My speed increases a lot more with the quirk I have. I move so fast that in 3 seconds I go around the square. The leaves I raised with my speed haven't even touched the ground yet. "You look tired, boy," said a voice coming out of a tree. When I look closely, it is a beautiful woman with blonde hair and beautiful eyes. "A lot," I say awkwardly as I wipe the sweat from my forehead. She comes to my side and gives me a grape soda. "Oh, thank you very much," I say, leaving some time for her to realize that I don't know her name. "You take Yama, a pleasure," she said, giving me a kind smile. I look at her clothes a little and she is wearing sports leggings, a shirt that is a little tight on her, highlighting her curves, and finally a ribbon in her hair preventing it from getting in her face. "A pleasure, Miss Takeyama, my name is Izuku Midoriya," I say cordially while bowing in front of her. She gives me an annoyed face and I don't understand why. "Please call me Yuchan." Miss Takeyama sounds very formal, she says to my surprise. It's the first time I see her and she says to call her by her name. How strange. "Oh, okay, Yuchan," I say while stumbling over my words. She lets out a light laugh, causing a certain tickle in my stomach. "And what are you doing here?" she asks me, looking at the square which is marked by my steps and runs. "I have been coming to this square since we played here with Kachan." "Oh, this is my training area. Here I reinforce my quirk so I can be a hero of honor," I say while each word came from my heart. She looks at the square a little more and then looks at me defiantly. "Do you want to see who can do a lap the fastest?" she said, standing up as she stood on the starting line. A smile appears on my face and I stand next to her while very familiar green rays run through my body. "Ready," she said while getting into the typical runner's position. "Ready," I continued imitating his pose and preparing for the race. "Now," she shouted as I ran away, but immediately she grows huge and her left foot runs across the square until reaching the final goal. I won. My surprised face says everything about me. "Are you Mount Lady?" I say, almost shouting like a fangirl when I see the huge woman. Suddenly I focus on her body and blush, looking down. "What's wrong, Midoriya? Is the pain of defeat too strong?" she said, laughing while my gaze remained on the ground. "I don't know about the pain of defeat, but the pain in my crotch when I see her naked is painful," I say without thinking about my words, while she screamed like crazy when she saw her naked body. She immediately shrank down to her normal size, covering herself with her hands, took off my green shirt and threw it in her face. "You can wear my shirt," I say, looking in the opposite direction from where she was. I hear her put my shirt on and then tell me I'm ready, but when I turn around and see her with my shirt covering the bottom part, it made me feel butterflies in my stomach. "I didn't realize I wasn't wearing my suit that fits my quirk," she said, blushing, feeling awkward. "Shit, my house is far from here. How will I get there?" I activate my quirk and then carry her like a princess. She doesn't complain and I stay watching her. "Where do you live?" I asked him while distributing all my power on my 2 feet. "Alvarado 728, she said, whispering in my ear, and I instantly started running through the city. In 10 minutes I arrived at her house, which was neither very big nor very small. I took her from my grasp and she stared at me. "You saved me. When we see each other again I'll give you back your shirt," she said as she entered her house, but not before waving her hand at me. Thursday 1907. Am I supposed to keep training? Monday 9/12. Right now I'm at the academy, and even though sometimes I feel like running away, today was the day of hero classes. The big 3 would be the main characters of our class again, and I like that. I like Mirio and Nehire a lot because they're both cool, and Tamaki. It's Tamaki, even though he's quiet, I like him a lot. Right now we are waiting in the classroom for the arrival of the 3 third-year students. Everyone formed small groups while chatting. I decided to approach Ida and Uraka to chat a little. "Hey guys," I say, getting the attention of both of them, who turn to look at me and smile. "Oh Izuku, I was just telling Uraka how good you were at FIFA," Ida said in a mocking tone and laughing lightly. He looked at Uraka and she started laughing out loud. "I'm used to PES," I said, looking away pretending to be angry. The door of the room opened and there entered the 3 greats of the UA. "Guys," the sensei called, causing me to give Ida one last mocking look and turn to look at the senpais. "The big 3 have arrived, so pay attention." Mirio stepped forward to look at us all. "Good morning first," he said, while we all replied good morning except Kachan. "Today we're going to do something new. We're going to simulate that there's a building on fire and there will be 15 civilians inside who can't get out. There will also be 2 villains inside who will prevent them from entering the building, Mirio explained while walking back and forth. On the other hand, I looked at Nahir, who had her gaze down. I'd never seen her like this before, she was always so energetic. Me and Mirio will be the villains, Tamaki said, speaking with his low voice causing Kachan to bite his tongue. So we're going to USJ, said the blonde as everyone stood up and followed the boys. I hurried a little and grabbed Nahir by the arm, pulling her towards me. She looked at me with a face of what the fuck, but there was no time for that. Are you okay? I've never seen you like this, I tell her, causing her to look down and stay silent. Damn it. Why is she acting like this? It's nothing, Midoriya, she said with her voice breaking as she broke free from my hold and walked away with the rest of my companions. And now what happened? Monday 17/21. When classes at the academy ended, the heroine Midnight arrived home, taking off her suit and putting on something more casual. Today it was decided which of the 2 participants would have the third date or get together with the green-haired boy. She would meet up with her friends at the bar they were used to going to. She left her house and set off to get to the bar that wasn't that far away. On the way she met her friend Yu, who had a silly smile on her face. Ninya, it's been 4 days, get over it, said Namuri, bringing her blonde friend out of her trance and slapping her on the butt. In 4 days I'll tell you the same thing, the blonde mocked, causing the brunette to look seriously at the floor. When they arrived at the bar, they sat at their usual table while the 2 missing women arrived. Nahir or you? Who will be lucky enough to have the green-haired boy tomorrow? You said while sighing in a daze, remembering that day in that square. Suddenly the other blonde of the group, Ryuko, arrived, sitting at the other end of the round table and waving to her friends. And Nahir? Will she come? The restless blonde you asked, to which the dragon heroine shook her head, bringing out a surprise in her 2 friends. What? For what reasons? Said Namuri, a little worried about the blue-haired girl she had already made in the group of friends. I don't know, I noticed she was a little down. She told me not to worry, she'll have her turn at the end, said Ryuko, ordering 3 glasses of alcohol for her friends to enjoy the night. Tuesday 13:43. Sensei Midnight was explaining something but I wasn't paying attention. Yesterday Nahir senpai was out of energy and that had me worried. When the bell rang, the classroom quickly emptied, only me and the sensei remained. Midoriya, she called me and I quickly approached to see what she wanted. In today's class I noticed you were very distracted. Is something wrong? She asks and I question whether to tell her or not. Well, let's say there's a girl who is very energetic but the last few days she seems to be sad. I tried not to mention my friend, attacking the problem head on. My sensei seemed to hesitate on what to say, but in the end she opened her mouth. It's a difficult subject. The same thing happened to me when I was little. I spent a week without talking to anyone, she said, while I looked at her with total seriousness and with my ears wide open. And what did you do to get out of that state? I asked her while she smiled from ear to ear. A friend of mine sat next to me and hugged me, she spat, causing me to go WTF, she just hugged me and we both stayed silent. I cried and cried. She just hugged me and nothing else, she said while remembering that moment. My eyes lit up again and I walked over to the woman's cheek and placed a kiss on her cheek. Thank you, sensei, I said as I ran out of the room excitedly. Nahir, I will definitely help you. What? You shouted, upset, looking at her black-haired friend who had a victorious look. So? He kissed your cheek? Ryuko said, looking at her friend. She nodded and you screamed in pain. Damn bitch. What did you do to win such a prize? Said you, bumping her forehead against her black-haired friend's. Huh? I just gave him some advice, Namuri said, shrugging her shoulders and smiling in victory. Damn it, you said, looking away, being completely jealous of the achievement her friend had achieved. Suddenly the door to Ryuko's house opened and there stood Nahir with her cheeks flushed red. Guess who hugged and comforted me? Said the blue-haired girl while the trio of women looked at her bewildered. 1 day ago. Nahiri, Midoriya shouted as he walked around the UA in search of his blue-haired friend. Nahir heard her friend's muffled screams but completely ignored them. Lately, her family has been going through difficult times after the death of her grandmother, who was the pillar of the family. The green-haired boy ran through the wide corridors of the academy in search of his blue-haired friend. A certain black-haired woman had given him a little advice and that was more than enough for him to act. On his way he met Tamaki, who was leaning against the wall with his gaze lost in the ceiling. Tamaki-senpai. Did you see Nahir around here? The green-haired boy asked, regulating his breathing while the third-year boy tried to remember where his friend went. I think he went up to the roof, said the black-haired boy while staring at the lost roof. Izuku nodded and continued running while looking for the stairs that led to the roof. When he turned the corner he ran into a black-haired girl. "Oh, I'm sorry," said Midoriya, helping to get up the blue-eyed girl who when she looked up blushed at seeing the green-haired boy. The girl wearing the academy uniform approached the green-haired boy's ear. "See you soon," she said as she ran away from the scene. Izuku completely ignored what happened and ran until he reached the door that gave access to the roof. Before entering he relaxed and opened the door. Nehire got up from the ground when she saw the freckled green-haired boy who was breathing heavily after having walked around the entire building. "I'll tell you now," Izuku began to speak, leaving a pause in which he took another breath of air. "It wasn't easy to find you," he said while he leaned against a wall and let himself fall. Nehire sat next to the exhausted green-haired man who looked up at her out of the corner of his eye and smiled at the sky. "It was never easy to find me," Nehire declared with her gaze lost in the blue sky. "She was always difficult to deal with. Even though she seems to be very friendly, she only tells very few people her personal problems." Midoriya thought for a moment about the right words and then put his arm behind her and hugged her in a warm hug. "Even if it's not easy, I will always find you," he said as he hugged her, and the blue-haired girl felt a burning sensation on her cheeks. The hug lasted seconds, but for them it was days. It seemed like all the problems in the world vanished at that very moment. Nehire realized that she was about to boil like a kettle, so she broke the warm hug even though it hurt. "See you tomorrow, Midoriya," she said, putting both her arms behind her. She approached the boy's cheek and placed a wet kiss. The girl ran off, leaving a confused and blushing Midoriya on the terrace. The blue-haired girl ran around the UA jumping with happiness. "Present. I can't believe it," you said, resting her arms on her cheeks, looking quite annoyed by the advance of her friend's student. Nemuri was hesitant to say anything. "I didn't have to give him that advice," she said, scratching the back of her neck in annoyance. "I should congratulate you for being my apprentice, but for some reason I won't," Ryuko said, looking at Nehire who sat on a chair around the round table. "What? You too, Ryuko-senpai?" said the blue-haired girl, showing her beautiful smile while the trio of friends looked at the floor. You clapped her hands and looked a little more excited. "Good. From what I see, the four of us already had the date with Midoriya, so we can now move on to the second round," said the blonde while everyone raised their heads excitedly and Ryuko took out her cell phone. Based on everyone's dating stats, Nehire came in first, Nemuri in second, you in third, and me in last, Ryuko said, looking at the notes app where she had written everything down. Nehire was happy. The fact that she had advanced further than everyone excited her and gave her even more power. "In a week we will see who will be the first to have the second date," Nemuri said, making air quotes while everyone squeezed her hands excitedly. "Who will win this bet?" you said, clenching her fist as she looked at the rest of her friends and now rivals. "It'll be me," Nehire said to everyone's surprise, hitting the round table and giving everyone her perfect smile. "Don't be so sure, girl, you were lucky to have been with him the longest," said Nemuri, appearing calm with her arms crossed. "I won't let you win," Ryuko said, showing no feelings but with some emotion in her voice, a little. The four of them looked at each other as sparks flew from their eyes. Who will keep the beautiful and perfect Midoriya? The contestants showed their skills in the first games, but now comes the hard part. Do you want to know how this story continues? Do you want to know who will be declared the winner and get the boy? Well, wait until next week and we will be back with the bet. Are we done? Can I go now? Okay? Well, production, see you next week. Remember to put on the other novel, okay? Yes, the one with Izuku and Toga. Yes, that one, okay. Goodbye, said the narrator goodbye while he took his jacket and left the studio. My alarm wakes me up. I open my eyes as I get used to the rays of sunlight flooding my room. I get up from my bed and stretch my body. I grab my cell phone while I go to the bathroom. I wash my face, also my teeth, and I leave the bathroom. I unlock my phone and see the date. A silly smile forms on my face. December 24th, today is Christmas Eve. I had planned to invite Nehire to spend the night at my house, since my mother is leaving for Mitsuki's house and I decided to stay alone. I go to my room again and put on my academy uniform, go down the stairs greeting my mother and leaving my house. I'm walking down the street while I'm thinking about the words I'll use to ask her out. On the way I meet Uraka, who's standing on a lamppost. Hey, I get her attention and she looks up, meeting my gaze. Were you waiting for me? I ask her when I get to her side. She looked down at me. Shall we go together? She said, giving me a big smile from ear to ear. We both arrived at the doors of the academy and entered. Once inside we noticed that there were decorations referring to Christmas. We walked through the hallways until we reached our class. "Urarika," Mina shouted, jumping into my brunette friend's arms, who returned her friend's hug. I ignored the cuddle moment and walked to my seat, plopping down in it. Everyone sits down and the door opens as the teacher walks in wearing a Santa suit. "Hello, everyone," the eldest greeted happily while everyone waved their hands at her. The class starts, but I have my mind in some celestial movie. I rest my hand on my chin and look outside, at the trees, the wind, the sky. I close my eyes and relax my body with a sigh. A bell ringing in the distance wakes me from my dream. I open my eyes excitedly and see all my classmates getting up and leaving the room. I get up from my seat trying to leave the room, but a hand stops me from moving. When I turn around to see who it was, I see my teacher, upset. "Izuku, you can't fall asleep in class," she said without hiding her anger. She's absolutely right. I shouldn't have fallen asleep, but it was almost instantaneous.
"I'm sorry, Midnight Sensei," I said, closing one of my eyes while the black-haired MILF looked away.
She stared at the ground for a few seconds until she suddenly looked up at me. "You'll have to do something to fix your mistake," she said, to my surprise. I glance at my watch and it reads 17:35. I had to hurry so I could invite Nehire to my house. "How can I get rid of the sensei?" "Why don't you go to my house to celebrate Christmas?" I say without thinking. When my words left my mouth I instantly regretted them. "Okay, see you at 9 p.m., she said, leaving the scene so quickly that she left a cloud of dust. I run out of the room in search of the girl who is 2 years older than me. I walk down the halls until I find her. "Oh, hello Nehire," I say, arriving at her side, taking a breath and looking at her. She gives me a big smile and nods in greeting. "Hey, do you have anything to do today?" I say, looking up at the ceiling, eating up my nerves. She pretends to be thinking in her mind and then looks at me. "I don't think so," she said with a light laugh. "Why, you want to go to my house?" I say, stumbling over my own words. "Sure," she said as she ran away from me, and I smiled like a winner. Nehire's POV. "Sure," I answer as I run away from him. I lean against a wall while regulating my breathing. Hearing his words makes my heart almost jump out of my chest. I have to change. Tonight I could make him fall in love with me first and keep him all to myself. Thursday, December 24th, 21:32. I arrive at her house. It is a small and very humble apartment. I go up some stairs that lead to her house and knock on her door. It takes a while. When it opens, in front of me is Ryuko-sensei. "What are you doing here?" she said when she saw me. My face was in shock. "If she is here." I force my way into the house and there I see you, Nemuri and Izuku, dancing while a song played in the background. "Oh, Nehire-san. We were waiting for you," said Nemuri, looking at me with a victorious face. I let out my grumpiness and a long sigh and join in their weird dance, Nemuri moving her hips while you leads the way. Miss Ryuko is sitting on a chair while raising her arm. After dancing, Izuku took something out of the oven and we all went to the table. There were quite a few snacks on it and we started eating. Time flew by and when we saw the clock it read 11:58 p.m. We all became alarmed and looked for our glasses. 3, 2, 1. "Merry Christmas," we all shouted together, watching the sky light up with fireworks. Izuku silently approaches me and leaves a small box in my hand. "Don't tell them why I didn't buy them anything," he whispered to me, causing me to laugh. When I open the small box, I see a necklace with steel wings on it. I understand. It's a fairy, it refers to my quirk. I turn around and place a wet kiss on his cheek. He blushes and gives me a big smile. "We're back, ladies. Time to party," you shouted as she entered the bar where they usually hung out. Her friends covered their faces in embarrassment except for a certain blue-haired girl who was amused by the blonde's behavior. "Can't you just keep quiet for a few seconds?" Nemuri asked ironically as she dragged the blonde by the collar of her shirt. The quartet of women sat at their typical circular table, ordering beers and a banana milkshake for Nehire. The waiter handed them their drinks and they all looked at each other defiantly. "Well, I think it's time." "No?" says Nehire, sticking her finger in the wound first. The trio of mature women nodded as they took a sip of their order. "We'll see who's the first to have the date," Ryuko says, making air quotes. They nodded, putting one of their hands behind their backs. "Rock, paper or scissors," they all said at the same time, taking out their hands to reveal each of their options. You and Ryuko drew paper, Nehire drew scissors, and Nemuri chose rock. By deduction, Nemuri won, but she remained silent to see her friend's relationship. "If we break the rules a little, Nemuri wins." Since I kill you too and she kills me, the blue-haired girl finished speaking, causing the blonde duo to become sad. Come on. Thanks Nahir, the blue-haired girl thanked, looking at the attractive woman who had a smile from ear to ear. I don't really care, you can do a lot but I already won this from the first date, said the blue-haired girl, drinking the last of her drink while leaving a bill and leaving the place. You and Nemuri sighed tiredly. We're leaving, Ryuko-san, said the other blonde, getting up from the table and leaving a bill on it. Okay, tomorrow Nahir will keep watch for me. So I'll take advantage of the vacation, she said while the duo of friends nodded and left the place. She ordered another drink, and another, and another, and another. It had easily been 2 hours since her friends had left the bar, it was about to close so she was forced to leave. When she went outside, the cool air hit her face. She covered herself with her scarf and started walking through the empty streets. As she turned a corner, someone in a hooded suit ran into her and knocked her to the ground, just like the man. All right, miss, said a voice familiar to the heroine. Suddenly a green ray passed in front of her and in a second the guy was face down and being handcuffed. Damn you. Did you think you could rob that place without me noticing? Said the boy, whose hood fell off due to a gust of air, revealing his green hair. Midoriya? The blonde asked upon seeing the messy green hair that characterizes the young man so much. Upon hearing his name, he turned around and saw the beautiful blonde woman. Oh, Ryuko-san. Thanks for helping me, being a heroine even without the suit, huh? Said the green-haired man amused as he finished handcuffing the subject who was surrendered. I think so, hey, Ryuko said, trying to laugh, but it was more of a poorly made moan. Izuku stopped the guy and left him next to the heroine. A police car could be seen from the other corner and Izuku became alarmed and climbed the tree that was a few meters away from the woman. The police vehicle stopped and they thanked the heroine for helping them. When it left, the green-haired man climbed down from the tree. I'm sorry, but since I don't have a license yet, I can't keep watch. But my heart is telling me to help, the green-haired boy complained about not being able to have that stupid license yet, which would help him a lot. Should I tell the police? Ryuko said, putting a finger on her chin, making Izuku nervous. What? No, please no, said the green-haired boy, stumbling over his own words and approaching the woman. Will you take me home? The blonde said, causing Izuku to step back because of the smell of alcohol she had on her. Are you drunk? Okay, I'll take you in exchange for your silence, said the green-haired man, crouching down while the woman climbed onto his back. Izuku put 10% on each foot and began to run at high speeds, while the blonde was giving him intrusions. Is this your house? Izuku asked, looking at the apartment where the heroine lived. It looked like her apartment, maybe a little bigger. She nodded and got off his back, walking until she reached the stairs. When she went up, she opened her door and gestured for Izuku to go up. Izuku followed Ryuko up the stairs, stopping at the doorway. Inside, she had already changed into more comfortable clothes, stretching her arms tiredly. Miss Ryuko? Are you feeling okay? Izuku asked, noticing the drowsy look in her eyes. I think I need to sit down for a moment, Ryuko murmured, rubbing her temples. Can you get me some water? Izuku quickly nodded. Of course. Just sit tight, I'll be right back. Midoriya helped Ryuko settle onto the couch, handing her a glass of water. She smiled weakly. Thanks, kid. I think I just needed a breather. I've never seen so many earrings in one ear before, Izuku said, impressed, delicately observing the blonde.